what do you picture when you think of a U.S. Marshal? Perhaps it's a rugged lawman walking into a dusty, backwater town with a shiny badge pinned to his chest and a big iron on his hip to deal with the local outlaw gang. In that case, you wouldn't be too far off from how the Marshals carried out their duties back in the Wild West days. Their story goes back even further, however, spanning over 230 years, giving the U.S. Marshals Service the honor of being the oldest federal law enforcement agency in the U.S. So, do the U.S. Marshals still have their Wild West roots? How have they evolved over the centuries? What does it mean to be a U.S. Marshal present day? And what does it take to become a U.S. Marshal? We're going to answer all those questions for you and much more. What's up, guys? I'm Veteran Vinny, the voice behind General Discharge. Join us as we take a deep dive into the history of America's oldest federal law enforcement agency, all the way from the beginning to the present day. This is U.S. Marshals Service. Established on September 24, 1789, the U.S. Marshals were created when President George Washington signed the Judiciary Act into law. To start, there were 13 marshals, one for each state. Their initial job description was simple: execute all lawful warrants issued under the authority of the U.S. government. As you can imagine, they had a wide range of duties, including serving subpoenas, taking the census, managing jurors, and collecting taxes. As time went on, during the late 1800s, armed law enforcement and bringing fugitives to justice became the Marshals' primary duties in the virtually lawless Wild West. Working under the Department of Justice after 1870, the Marshals of this era include some of the legends of the Wild West, such as Wyatt Earp, who, along with his brothers Virgil and Morgan and John Doc Holliday, took down the Cowboys gang at the OK Corral. Another famous Marshal is Bass Reeves, a man born into slavery who became the first African-American U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi and captured over 3,000 criminals during his decorated career. Moving into the early 20th century, the rise of modern organized crime, especially during the Prohibition era, saw further expansion of the Marshals' duties into protecting witnesses, managing federal prisoners, and ensuring the safety of the judiciary. But one thing the U.S. Marshals couldn't ensure is the safety of your personal information. That's where Aura comes in, today's sponsor. We live in a time when literally everything can be found online. We have a world of information right there at our fingertips, and sadly that information typically includes our own personal details. Details that you're likely unaware of being shared, yet there they are. If you don't believe us, just try Googling your name. Chances are, you'll probably find more information than you'd ever want to be out there for anyone to see, which is why we are so grateful for Aura. Aura is an all-in-one digital safety tool that can identify data brokers who are exposing and selling your private information and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Brokers are legally required to remove your info if you ask, but they make it super hard to do. Let Aura handle it for you. You want to be in control of your information, and stopping data brokers is a great step into doing that. But you also gotta protect yourself from companies who may be careless with your information. Recently, AT&T revealed that over 73 million of their customer records from both current and former customers were released into the dark web. For those affected, they recommended using strong passwords, monitoring your account activity, and considering credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Well, Aura does all this for you. And the best part is, you don't have to download several different apps because one company couldn't keep your data safe. So if our data were to have been compromised from this leak, we wouldn't have to worry because Aura is always on and they're always doing the hard work to keep us safe online. We value our privacy and we value yours as well. So go on over to aura.com/generaldischarge to try it out on a free 2-week trial. That link is going to be in the description and pinned comment below. The U.S. Marshals continued to expand their duties throughout the years. During the 1960s, they served as personal security details for civil rights activists and enforced desegregation orders. And during the 1970s and 80s, they were shaped into the agency we know today. 1971 was a hallmark year in this process, with the beginning of the Witness Security Program, authorized under the Organized Crime Control Act of 1970, and the formation of the Special Operations Group. SOG would become an integral part of the U.S. Marshals missions and development over the next few decades. The then director of the Marshal Service, Wayne Colburn, conceived SOG as a specially trained and highly disciplined federal tactical unit that could rapidly respond to emergencies anywhere in the U.S. or its territories in response to the increasingly hostile and dangerous situations that Marshals personnel faced. It didn't take long for Colburn's first 114 handpicked recruits to face their first mission. After completing initial training at the Border Patrol Training Academy, which focused on techniques for dealing with civil unrest, SOG was deployed to secure the federal courts in the Washington, D.C. area during the 1971 May Day demonstration. However, it was in 1973 when hundreds of members of the American Indian Movement seized the town of Wounded Knee, South Dakota in protest of the federal government's treatment of Native Americans that the need for even more intense training for SOG marshals became clear. The 71-day standoff resulted in several exchanges of fire that left 2 American Indian Movement members dead and a deputy marshal paralyzed. In the 1980s, the Marshal Service continued to expand its fugitive apprehension efforts, establishing the 15 Most Wanted Fugitive Program in 1983 to target the most dangerous fugitives. In the same year, SOG got its first dedicated training center at Camp Beauregard, Louisiana. The decade also saw the Marshals involved in high-profile operations, such as the witness protection and relocation of key figures in the Mafia, including those testifying against organized crime families in the infamous Mafia Commission trial. Meanwhile, SOG Marshals provided tactical assistance during one of the largest and longest hostage situations in U.S. history, when inmates took 75 employees hostage in the U.S. Penitentiary, Atlanta, Georgia, in 1987. Then, in 1989, SOG Marshals were deployed to Panama to assist in the capture of General Manuel Noriega and his transport back to the USA. However, any agency with a history as long as the U.S. Marshals cannot be without controversy. For them, that came in August 1992, when a standoff between SOG Marshals and the Weaver family at their cabin at Ruby Ridge in Idaho resulted in the deaths of Deputy Marshal William Deegan, Vicky Weaver, and 14-year-old Samuel Weaver. Following 9/11, the Marshals adapted to the evolving landscape of national security and law enforcement, playing a crucial role in protecting the federal judiciary, securing federal buildings, and ensuring the safe transport of high-profile terrorism suspects. With crime becoming an increasingly complex issue to tackle, the Marshal Service continues to conduct its original duties and evolve to take on new ones, which neatly brings us to present day, the U.S. Marshals are at the forefront of U.S. federal law enforcement, capable of performing a wide variety of dangerous and risky missions. They operate across the USA with a presence in each of the 94 federal districts through offices led by U.S. Marshals appointed by the President, ensuring localized execution of their diverse missions despite their strategic coordination being centralized at the headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. And because fugitive apprehension and investigations remains the Marshals' bread and butter, we'll start from there. When it comes to tracking down fugitives, the U.S. Marshals aren't just America's first call, they're the best call. They apprehend more fugitives per year than all other law enforcement agencies combined. To put this into perspective, the most recent numbers from 2022 show that the Marshals arrested a whopping 75,846 fugitives at a rate of 303 per day. That's insane. The agency also cleared 95,425 warrants and carried out 720 international extraditions, deportations, and expulsions. To keep track of the highest profile criminals, the Marshals have the 15 Most Wanted Fugitive Program, which we already mentioned. For less prominent, but no less dangerous, career criminals with histories of violence or whose offenses pose a significant threat to public safety, the agency also runs the Major Case Fugitive Program. The U.S. Marshals work extensively to provide assistance and expertise to other law enforcement agencies through 56 permanent fugitive joint task forces and overseeing 7 regional task forces. Most recently, in 2006, the agency expanded its capabilities in investigating and apprehending fugitive sex offenders with the establishment of the Sex Offender Investigation Branch. Such a high volume of arrests means handling and moving a lot of federal prisoners. This is where the U.S. Marshals Service Prisoner Operations Division and Justice Prisoner and Alien Transportation System, otherwise known as JPATS, come in. The Marshals house over 63,000 prisoners in federal, state, local, and private jails throughout the U.S., rented out through contracts with over 1,200 state and local governments. To move all these prisoners to the cells they belong in, the Marshals manage the JPATS network of detention centers and a fleet of vehicles and aircraft. Yes, you heard it right, aircraft. Where did you think the nickname Con Air comes from? Currently, JPATS operates a fleet of 4 Boeing 737s. Altogether, JPATS handles over 200,000 prisoner and criminal transfers per year. But we're not done yet, because the Marshals are also tasked with protecting those who provide testimonies that help put all these prisoners behind bars. Through the Witness Security Program, or WITSEC, they provide round-the-clock security for government witnesses and their authorized family members who are under high threat from intimidation and retribution during trials and court appearances. Those who remain under threat are relocated, protected, and provided with new identities by the program. The Marshals pride themselves on the fact that since the beginning of the program, none of the 19,000 WITSEC participants who have followed program guidelines have been harmed or killed. Marshals working within the Office of Protective Operations provide security for federal judges, magistrates, and other court officials inside and outside the courtroom. This includes threat assessments, security planning, and the protection of judges and their families who may be targeted due to their involvement in high-profile cases. Additionally, the Marshals manage and dispose of assets seized and forfeited by federal law enforcement agencies. Yeah, when we said the Marshals' duties involved all elements of law enforcement, we were serious. As of 2022, the U.S. Marshals Service had assets worth $3.67 billion on hand. By auctioning or selling them, the agency distributed roughly $506 million to victims of crime and other innocent third parties in the same year. Tactical operations are handled, unsurprisingly, by the Tactical Operations Division, for which SOG provides the tactical capabilities. However, the seemingly never-ending expansion of the Marshals' tasks has necessitated further specialization. In addition to SOG, the Tactical Operations Division is responsible for managing and coordinating the work of various offices, which should be on screen now. Of particular note here is the Strategic National Stockpile Security Operations, which is an all-hazards unit tasked with the secure delivery of critical medical countermeasures during national emergencies, natural events, or designated national special security events, as well as the Office of Strategic Technology, which provides the Marshals with modern tactical communications, video surveillance, GPS tracking, and other advanced technical tools, and prepares Marshals working outside the U.S. through the Global Threat Awareness Program. With how capable the U.S. Marshals are, what does it take for someone to join this prestigious law enforcement agency? Despite having a wide range of duties across the nation, positions in the U.S. Marshals Service become available only a couple times every other year or so, and stay open for a very short time, with just the first couple hundred applications getting through. Those interested in joining the Marshals should contact recruiters or attend information sessions, which provide a realistic job preview and instructions on the next steps in the hiring process. If they have the right qualifications and experience, they may be invited to apply via a USA Jobs link. But what are those qualifications? While the administrative staff, detention enforcement officers, and aviation enforcement officers have their own sets of special qualifications, we'll focus on what it takes to become a Deputy U.S. Marshal. The basic qualifications for a Deputy Marshal are seemingly simple. One must be a U.S. citizen between the ages of 21 and 36, with a bachelor's degree, 3 years of qualifying work experience, or a combination of education and experience equivalent to the GL-07 level, and a squeaky clean record, of course. Their physical fitness test, known as the Marshals Fitness in Total Certification, is also a pretty standard PT test, which includes a 1.5 mile run, max push-ups in 1 minute, max sit-ups in 1 minute, and a sit and reach test. You can check out the full fitness test and all the required qualifications by clicking the links in the description below or by scanning the QR code on screen right now. However, potential candidates must be prepared for a long hiring process, which is one of the longest of all the federal law enforcement agencies, lasting between 9 and 12 months, with some reporting up to 3 years from submitting an application to starting the academy training. Once at the United States Marshals Service National Basic Training Academy at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, candidates undergo a 21.5-week training program during which they must score at least 70% on 5 written exams and ace the practical exercises. These practicals are by far the biggest eliminator of candidates, so they must bring their A game. On top of that all, the Marshals Academy is known to be one of the more physically demanding academies for federal law enforcement agencies. But what if you're already a Deputy U.S. Marshal and want to join their elite Special Operations Group? Well, that is easier said than done. SOG Marshals are a small, elite unit consisting of less than 100 Deputy Marshals. This is why SOG selection is highly competitive, so much so that Deputy Marshals who volunteer are chosen to undergo the process according to a numerical scoring system. If they score high enough, they must pass an interview with the SOG's training cadre who vet the candidates' claimed abilities and skills. They then must go through a strict screening process. During this rigorous 27-day selection, candidates are tested primarily on their ability to function under pressure and work well in a team through 15 to 17-hour training sessions. During the course, candidates conduct training on a 12-station obstacle course and a leader's reaction course, which is designed to test their problem-solving, teamwork, and leadership skills. Students also receive training in helicopter insertions, rappelling, precision shooting techniques, diversionary distraction devices, close quarters battle techniques, tactical field training, tactical movement, and other skills. Once candidates pass the training course, they receive an assignment to one of the SOG teams, but return to their regular duties as a Deputy Marshal until that team is deployed on a mission. However, selection is not the end of training for SOG Marshals. They must continue to hone their skills. For this reason, SOG has shaped the Tactical Operations Center over the years by adding multiple gun ranges, a warehouse with movable walls, rappel towers, and an urban training center. At least every 6 months, SOG Marshals carry out 3-week-long training sessions to practice shooting, assault skills, helicopter insertions, and tactical field exercises, which include tracking and tactical movement. All of this makes SOG a highly capable federal law enforcement tactical unit, but it's not the only one. In fact, there's also the elite FBI hostage rescue team, where we have an entire video covering their formation all the way to their present-day capabilities. Scan the QR code on screen or go to the link in the description below to go watch it. Covering these badass units would be impossible without our Patreon supporters, so a big shout out to them. You can join them and help us continue to produce the content you love by scanning the QR code on screen or going to the link in the description or pinned comments below. Do you even want to be here?
All your friends are subscribing to General Discharge, and you don't even want to be here.